So, good morning, everyone. Pagan conservative here again. So this morning's revelations, not really much of them, but just I don't know so much revelations as we're in bizarro land. So, what we've gotten down to now, because the mainstream media is so far bought out, including Fox, all the networks, is we've gotten down to the point where borderline tabloid and tabloid newspapers, the New York Post, Newsmax, and Gateway Pundit, seem to be the only ones that are actually reporting facts-based news, backed up with facts. We've come to the point where where people are going to refute anything that gets posted simply on the fact that, oh, well, those are tabloid sources. Do I remember, wasn't CNN borderline tabloid when they first started too? CNN was also borderline tabloid before they went over and they covered the war in Iraq, so just remember that. Granted, papers can grow. We're getting better news from the Babylon Bee, which is a known satire site, than we're getting from some of these other sources. I had articles posted last night by friends of mine that are like, oh look, it says here that there's absolutely zero election fraud, no election fraud here, none at all. Yet we're getting firsthand credible accounts. And when you have direct evidence is when someone under affidavit says and tells you, I saw this happening under penalty of perjury. If someone says that and writes an affidavit and swears into it, I'm sorry, but that is what we call direct evidence. It's not a third-party report by news media that can spin it. It is someone coming straight out and saying, this is happening. When we have people resigning because they know there was voter fraud, I've admitted voter fraud, have people that have come out and said, I was there and watched them screw this up. There was machines from, there was a machine report from the 12th, one of the articles came out early, the 12th. It actually came out a little bit. The story happened earlier, where the one of the poll checkers, one of the election officials, had gone in, said in that the people running the tabulators only had maybe an hour's worth of training, weren't very well trained, and the way the machines work are you are supposed to go in with the ballot counts, and as you count them out, they go through the machine. If the machine's jammed, they would do stacks of 50. If the machine jammed in any one of those, they had to stop the process, clear the machine completely, and then start over from the beginning after the paper jam was cleared. What he was saying was what would happen is these kids would go in with stacks of 50. They'd start scanning them in. The machines would jam up to 4 times an hour. When they jammed, they would clear the jam, but then they would go back and they would do what they're supposed to and rescan the stack without clearing the machine first, which was causing them to count votes up to 4 times. So they had to extrapolate it out that there was thousands of votes that ended up being overcounted. And there was hundreds of them that got overcounted by one counter alone by the time he realized that was an issue and they were able to correct it. So this is something that you need to understand. This was under affidavit. This was under penalty of perjury that these things happened. Other issues that we've run into, which again, Gateway Pundit's the only one that's reporting any of these stories, but they're also saying this is what, but they're linking back. This is the court order. A federal judge said this. A circuit judge said this. They said they had to go back and do recounts. That's the only people reporting. It's firsthand accounts. And it's it's fringe newspapers because no one in the mainstream is actually covering the truth. That is what is ridiculous about this whole thing. And I'm sorry, but I am going to base my judgments on firsthand accounts and affidavit reports and doing my own research than trusting a media that keeps shifty eye being like, oh no, there's no war in Ba Sing Se. We've always been at war with East Asia. I'm sorry. No, enough of this propaganda fucking bullshit. Look at what's actually going on. States are flipping back to gray, left and right. The map is there to confuse. They're not reporting correctly. And at this point, the Supreme Court will decide. And they keep finding more and more and more evidence of voter fraud. They keep finding more and more evidence that is flipping blue counties back to red. That is what's actually going on. So we're going to let this play out. The recount must happen. Stop trying to convince yourself that you're not being lied to. You've been lied to for years and years. And I'm sorry, but me, other conservatives, Republican Party, libertarians, independents, We're really getting fucking sick of it. And you should be concerned about this too, because this damages the integrity of the election. Voting is a sacred right in this country. And if they're going to cheat, it completely diminishes the ability, because we're being forced into basically, well, whoever controls it, controls it. And then on the other part of the Dominion voting machines, there's been DEF CON hacking conference a couple years ago went through the whole thing with how to hack a voting machine, because they're not secure. They've never been secure. IT community, InfoSec community has been saying this for years. There's another couple videos up on YouTube that show you in 2 minutes or less how easy it is to get access to these things if you can get access. We're not saying, oh, some criminal snuck in and did this. No, this is inside jobs. This is people that are already in polling places that have access to machines when no one else is around. There was push updates put out the night before. There is, it's very simple to go in and reprogram a machine. You go in there, apparently you pop the side open, pull out the hard drive, close it up, power it back on, and bam, admin access. No checks and balances, no locks, no special keys, no tools required. That easy. They've gone and reviewed the hardware by actual security analysts and professionals. The actual security analyst professionals, based on even just the how-to, just the manual, said this is not secure. I worked as a security analyst for a bit. I actually have done, my Security Plus in my Cisco classes, and that's one of my backgrounds is computer security. I've been saying this too. There's something that's not right. The checks and balances aren't there for the machines. The machines are not safe to be using for this. And then I'm having people that are professionals much longer in the field than me looking this stuff over and going, no, this doesn't smell right. This doesn't pass the sniff test. I wouldn't allow these to be certified, because what they do is, the way they're set up is, the IT person for the county has full control over who wins the election, because there's no security on the machines. There's no real physical security. There's no real security. They're very, very easy to tamper with. And then who knows what's going on at a higher level, because it seems like, I'm sorry, but a push update going out the night before the election, and they're finding discrepancies in all the machines now. It started down in Georgia. They found them again in Michigan. They found discrepancies with the counters up in Wisconsin. They're finding it in Arizona. Every single state appears to be affected. So that is an issue. And we had Dominion boasting that their machines are in 7 out of the, or is it 9 out of 20? It's not 9 out of 20 of the largest counties as far as the votes get counted. And they're in 30 states total. And of the 30 states, I believe it was 28 of them have already shown issues. Indiana, I don't know. They're in Indiana, but according to the map I saw last night, either they haven't looked into Indiana yet, or they hadn't bothered looking into Indiana yet. But I probably, because we went so hard red that they just, it's not a concern, but they probably should anyway. But yeah, they of the 30 states they're in, 28, and then in every single battleground state. That's questionable, especially when they're mistabulating. They found, I want to get this correct. 2,100,000 votes were manually deleted from some of the machines because someone pulled a hard drive. There's a county in Pennsylvania that hasn't tabulated their votes yet because someone is holding the hard drives hostage. That is questionable. That came across one of the regular medias where they're like, well, no, it was a first person account that was then reported, and then under affidavit that the woman had asked, where's my vote, and called to their local election officials, and they told her our county hasn't counted yet because they're holding the hard drives hostage. So there's these reports. I have the ones I could get. I went and I saved them down. But I'm trying to archive as much as possible. What I'm going to probably have to do at some point is I'm going to have to get all this shit moved over to my main computer and then start putting stuff together. I think I'd posted one montage up earlier. It should still be there. But that's what the issues were. And then there's a whole nother one. Then there's the censorship. I posted, I don't think I talked about this on YouTube yet, but I posted a the mathematical, I can't pronounce shit. It's Boson Benson, whatever. It's basically, it's a projection of of the curve. What is predict, usually, it should, match this line, like, as things come in, and if you do two comparisons next to each other, the graph should be similar, even if one's slightly higher. And that shows you that, Biden was sudden spike, and then there was no change in Trump. And I'm like, okay, well, that's just a discussion to have going. This seems awfully strange that you would have a spike here but no spike here. There should be a correlated spike. And that's all that is. If you're comparing two time frames of the exact same thing to each other, basically we're saying is A and B, and if you do, and so A and B should look something like this. And what the graph was doing was, if you dumped, it doesn't matter if you dumped 100,000, a billion, a million, whatever votes, both of those graphs should still be very similar in their count. Well, what had happened was it came down, and then it spiked on one, and then didn't spike on the other. So there was no difference at all. Now, we would even expect, even if one went higher than the other, that's fine, but there still should be. Actually, the best way to kind of witness exactly how that applies would be to check the internet going down over the past couple days. There's a website that tells you where the outages are, and if you look at all the graphs, almost all the graphs, you can see spike in outages at the same time in the graph. That is kind of that's the type of application we're talking about. In this time frame, all of these websites had the same, very similar outage spike. And so it's do, and then that spike is there, and then it flatlines again. That is what you expected to see when all of a sudden it's like do, ballots dump, and then even back out. There should be something very, very similar, even if one, and the same thing with those charts, they're not going to all be exactly the same height, but you can see a correlative bump. That's kind of what the explanation of that graph was. Well, anyway, here nor there, whether or not it's true science or not, because people are refuting it, and I love to throw AP articles, by the way. The Associated Press is simply a collection of news reports that people can pull from. It doesn't mean that they have been tested. It doesn't mean that they have been checked. It doesn't mean that they're factual. It doesn't mean that they're not factual. It's just a dumping ground for people to pull stories from. That's what the AP is. So saying, well, I got this story from the Associated Press, great. Who wrote it? What are their qualifications? Who's their background? Who's paying them? You have to answer those questions too, because if you don't, that's great. I'm pretty sure I could write something and manage to get it up there too. That's kind of where we're at with this. Is like, it's a dumping ground. You have the credentials, it goes up, and there's no one verifying that just because someone has credentials doesn't necessarily mean that they're trustworthy. So that's nowhere to that's yeah. And my problem was, and my biggest problem was with posting this graph to Facebook, because it was a discussion, was that I was flagged. I was not flagged for fake news. I could understand if they had flagged me for fake news. I'll give a pass for that, because they're fucking blocking shit left and right. 'Twas not fake news I was flagged for. A graph, a mathematical graph with no images of any human or animal in it, was flagged for adult sexual exploitation. Multiple times. And if you try to repost this graph onto Facebook, it will flag you within approximately 10 seconds. Every time. Even if you take a screenshot of them flagging you and repost the screenshot, it will flag you again. And if you take a screenshot of them flagging you, it will go ahead and it'll flag you again. So I'm sorry, but there's like major bullshit going on. They don't let you post any of the facts. If you screenshot and post the facts, you can't get the news out there. You are being censored hard. When someone is trying that hard to censor shit, something is wrong. That is not freedom of discussion. That is not our freedom of speech. That's not our freedom of ability to share ideas. That is totalitarian, fascist bullshit. I'm sorry, but that is what we are dealing with right now. We are dealing with a bunch of bullshit, fascist bullshit. And that is why a reckoning is going to come. Hopefully we get 4 more years of Trump, because quite frankly, I think that might be the last chance that we have to survive at this point, because it's bad right now. It's going to be, it will end up being bad. People are already preparing. There is, by the way, a march in DC on the 14th. So tomorrow, Saturday, they are doing a march for Trump in support. I have no idea where that's gonna go. I kind of want to go, but at the same time, I know that friggin' BLM and Antifa are already there protesting. They're dancing in front of the White House. With, by the way, you want to, oh, and that's a whole nother discussion with the masks and social distancing. The best videos was someone had a compilation up off the news yesterday where they're all wearing their mask. Oh, they're wearing their mask though, like, well, they're not distanced until the guy pulls his mask down and starts yelling, yeah, in the other person's face who's this far away from him, and then puts his mask back up. What's the point? And then there's another group over there going dancing, having a great time, passing around a wine bottle, drinking it, putting their mask back up, passing it to the next person who's then drinking straight from the bottle. Are you fucking stupid? It's like, is this a thing or not? Because what the fuck is the point if you're just going to be swapping spit and breathing in other people's faces? I'm like, these fucking hypocrites. And that's the kind of ridiculous that I'm dealing. That is exactly what I'm dealing with on an everyday basis. That's what I'm watching on an everyday basis is, what are you doing? Like, don't tell me and call me and don't call me a bigoted, racist, homophobe, horrible person, grandmother killer, and then, turn around and swap spit with your person who's next to you. I'm like, what the fuck, man? It's like, you have absolutely no, and that's the problem with a lot of the people that are celebrating Biden. I'm sorry, you guys are fucking psychotic. You're mentally ill if you think any of this makes any sense. Take a step back, look at what the facts are, look at the court cases, understand why things are being brought up on certain charges, and understand that when the transition team says that, President Trump will transition very smoothly into his next 4 years, that is most likely what is going to happen. If you looked at the boots to the ground around here, if you talk to people one-on-one, there's a couple very loud liberals that like to, be influencers online that are given way more pull than they actually have. And a lot of very quiet people who are too busy working and having regular lives and families that did not vote for Harris. And don't you get me wrong. Don't you mistake this. Biden is not the one in charge. Biden is a senile old man. He can barely put a sentence together. They're pushing through Commie Harris. I'm sorry. Fascist, commie, socialist Harris is not what we want for this country. They're the kind of shit they're pushing through. This is very understandable. They want to legalize they want to legalize prostitution. That's that whole sex workers push that BLM and Antifa were pushing for the sex workers rights. Which, I'm sorry, that's a very interesting industry, and why people need to be protected to a degree. That's not a safe industry. And while every here and there you might get someone, that's their thing, whatever, you're an adult, you have the right to, do what you want. If someone wants to pay you for it, great. But the flip side of that industry is children get kidnapped, people get abused, people get whatever. And I'm like, well, that's why we have to have, rights and stuff. And I'm like, or we could be very careful on how we do this, because it sounds like you're promoting an industry that thrives on sexual exploitation and slavery. And is that really the best thing that you want? I mean, is that really the best that you can do, is sell your body? You get old. That's not a continual career. That's not something that you're going to be able to retire on. Eventually you're all, you're going to lose your looks. You're going to lose whatever. That's, you're going to want to settle down. You're going to find out you can't have kids. You're going to get some disease. There's a lot of dangers that go along with that. Is that really an occupation that you want to hold up and say, well, firefighters and oil workers, that's dangerous jobs too. I'm like, yeah, but they're able to take care of shit and retire. Oh my God. Either way, it's like, I don't know. I don't think it's right. I think it's a moral issue, and everyone's going to have a slightly different stance on it. I mean, if you want to do that, fine, but I don't think it should be legalized, and you got to be very, very careful. But that's, again, whole another discussion at some point. But which again goes back to me not really understanding, why is my mathematical graph getting tagged for adult sexual exploitation if they're trying to legalize sex work? I mean, wouldn't that just be that's the other dualistic thing I really don't understand with this is how you can have your cake and eat it too. Because on one hand, it's like, oh, think of the children. And on the other hand, we're like, it's perfectly okay for a mother to force her 7-year-old to get a sex change. It's literally like, the story changes depending on what the feel is for the exact moment, because this is literally this is why I'm so perplexed. I'm like, you're saying let's legalize sex work, and then at the same time this is people that are trying to, maps, and the trying to push that, children loving is perfectly fine, and like pedophilia is okay, and then on the other hand they're like, oh, save the kids. I'm like, you don't fucking care about children. What's really going on here? They were finding that a lot of these kids that were kidnapped by the traffickers, and that's the whole thing. Well, Trump was splitting up children from their families. No, the problem is those 500 plus kids, they couldn't find their families because their families weren't with them. They were kidnapped. They were either kidnapped or they were sent over here by their parents. And their parents were hoping that they'd find a better life here. Either way, either they were kidnapped and they were going to be sold in the sex trade. With a lot of the people that come over, women and children, that's what happens to them on the border. Is they come over with smugglers, they either die in a truck because the smugglers will run and they will leave them locked in the back of a big rig in the desert. They will get sold into sex slavery, which does still occur here, by the way. Usually it is, the last couple cases, there was a Middle Eastern immigrant family that had kidnapped some Filipinos, had come over here to do house cleaning, and ended up keeping them as slaves in their house. This still happens. Portland has a horrible issue with this too, where people literally still get shanghaied, where they will take them and they will send them overseas. This still occurs in this country. It's very quiet, but when we're talking about human trafficking, we're talking about the slave trade. It's not Black people. It's everyone that could be a victim. It is typically women and children. That's what there's a problem. Trump has been digging this stuff up and exposing it. And the problem is it's getting awfully close to high positions of power. That is why there's getting cracked down upon. That's why they want him out so badly, is because it's being exposed. Epstein didn't kill himself. There's a reason that we keep reminding you and saying that, because he didn't. There's an awful lot of questions. How far up does it reach? We're seeing ties into Hollywood, which is, to be honest, I worked out there. Not surprised about it. The whole casting couch, that is a thing. I had to deal with that when I was out there. I had a boss try to exploit me. That's nothing that I can say is unusual. That's something I experienced firsthand. And so this being exposed, and particularly the Trump administration cracking down on it, I mean, that's kind of what happens. So we can get into this further. You can go ahead and ask questions. I will try to answer them. But and a lot of this is stuff I need to go pull up. I can't guarantee I'm going to have anything in the notes because I work, unfortunately. Well, or fortunately, I have a regular job. So I'm very busy in my regular job. I'm working part-time hours at the moment just because it's been kind of slow, and I'm trying to, build stuff as fast as I can, working as few hours as possible. But then I come home and I got a farm and I have commissions because it's that time of year where I'm making commissions and I have other things to work on. This, unfortunately, is third or fourth on my list behind all my other responsibilities as a mom, as an artist, as a person who's, trying to manage a shop, as a farmer. There's a lot of shit going on. And, unfortunately, politics has taken a back burner for a long time, and I wouldn't even be getting back into this, except I feel that the state of the country is at risk. That because the state of the country is at risk, I'm at risk, my livelihoods are at risk, that we're dealing with completely that there's a huge disenfranchise, it's disenfranchising the people that actually do the work and are hardworking, Americans. It's disenfranchising voters. It's disenfranchising the minorities who, don't necessarily want to agree lockstep in what they're told that they need to do. If you're Black, you have to vote Democrat. If you're pagan, you must be a liberal. Bullshit. I can think on my own. I'm a pagan because I'm a free thinker. I'm a free thinker and I'm pagan. I don't believe in this whole lockstep bullshit. I'm like, I'd like to look up to my own sources, which is what I'm trying to do. That's what I've been doing. I want my own opinion. I want to ask questions. I want to be told, don't ask that. I don't want that constant, don't ask that. Oh, don't ask that. No, I'm going to ask it. I'm going to call your shit out too. Because it's about time someone started calling people shit out. And I think that we have finally come to that breaking point in the country where enough people that have been sitting back kind of quietly smiling and nodding. Okay, sure, you believe that, sweetheart. Well, bless your heart, because we've been getting a lot of that for years now because people don't want to be canceled and don't want to have to deal with shit. Well, it has now come to the point where it's like, we've tried to be nice and hope that you figure it out on your own. And we've tried to talk back about, talk to you about it. We've tried to be civil about it. Now we've been pushed over the edge. And now it's come to a point where it's like, okay, we've done all this and we're done. For 4 years, you screamed at everyone and called us horrible racists and terrible people and stupid and obviously uneducated. Friggin' Harris was one of the ones that, dude, if you're a college kid and you're listening to this, if you're still here after 25 minutes, go look up how Harris described the kids in college. That's the reason they have to have RAs in their dormitories, because they're stupid. She thinks you're stupid. She thinks you're easily controlled and manipulated and stupid. You better go prove her wrong, because I don't think you are. Take 30 seconds and look into her background, what her accomplishments were. I vote people based on their accomplishments and what I think they're capable of doing. I don't vote on them based on their genitalia or color of their skin, because that is what gets you in trouble. That is what is racist. I'm not voting on a white guy because he's white. I'm voting on a white guy because he has had multiple successful businesses and has had failures and has come back from failures, who has been able to run successful businesses, who is an upstanding human in his actions. My family crest is not words but deeds. That's the motto that the family was built upon. Not words but deeds. Look at the actions of the person, not what comes out their mouth. Look at what they've done. What has Trump actually done? And not by what you've been told he's been done. Look at what he's actually done. Look at what they're actually working towards. And I'm gonna go pull video, and I can show video example after example after example where he's gone out and helped people. He's hired people. He's put policies into effect to help the minority, to help, to assist and to bring up. Things are not perfect. There's a lot of things I don't exactly agree upon, and I'd like a little more information on why the policy was chosen, but I have a feeling that there was a greater picture that was being worked on, or a greater plan that was trying to be enacted that, was stopped. There's a lot of policies that Trump has pushed through that they only seem to be partially allowed, or they got as much as they could out of it, and then some of the better parts were denied, because it seems that there's a lot of tricky fuckery going on, to be honest. That there's a lot of things that don't quite feel right. If you go through and look at some of his executive orders, I mean, I'm sorry, but a dictator and a fascist, which is what people like to call him, wouldn't be pushing to suppress online censorship. They would want more power for the government. They would be doing a power grab, which is what the Democratic Socialist Party, the Socialist Democrats, I'm sorry, they're not Democrats anymore. They're the fucking fascists now. The Democratic Party, for the most part, is dead. It has been eaten up by this horrible fascism, by this horrible communism, by this pure, weird nationalistic push to power grab and control. Big daddy government needs to tell you what to do. If you're not doing the right thing, if we don't think you're line step, we need to re-educate you and put you on a list. I wish I was joking about this. There was rumors about it that, again, back in the day in, 2008, 2010, back in the early days with Obama, when we were coming out of the Bush administration, there was rumors and people were warning you back then, just like McCarthy warned us this was going to happen years ago, that we were all like, oh, that can never possibly happen. It can never possibly happen. They're not going to really make a list to put us in camps. Well, now they're openly talking about it. And don't pretend it didn't happen. It's on Twitter. You just go look. There's already screenshots, because thanks to the age of the internet, people archive everything. If you all want to get a hold of me, I went ahead and I upped my my Parler account last night. I'm probably need to do a second account for this particular persona. You know, I went ahead and did one for my personal family account. I'll do another one for Pagan Thinker. I'm Pagan Thinker on Twitter. Again, it's not particularly my main account. Like I said, politics is like fourth on my list behind other shit that I do as a mother and a farmer and an artist. You know, there's like lists of stuff, but I am also do have Pagan Conservative on Twitch. So if you're around here, if you guys are still following me, I'm going to try to do more live streams. I do have Pagan Conservative on the TikToks. Usually I hide my face there, but I don't know. I may have to just start posting shit. I didn't really want to because I was trying to keep all the accounts separate, but unfortunately it's very difficult editing, and it's a lot easier to do this on my phone. So, you know, we'll go and we'll see what happens from there. But yeah, I'll try to list stuff down below. If there's things in particular you want more information on, I will do my best to go pull those articles if they haven't been hidden from the internet, because the other thing that we're finding is stuff will go up online and then it'll be scrubbed. I have a feeling that is part of the reason why the internet has been so ridiculously slow and so many things, so much of Google has been going down, is because I think stuff's being pulled and shadow banned. I'm pretty sure that some of my TikToks have been shadow banned too, because I had one I posted yesterday that the first hit had gotten like a shit ton of hits, like normally, you know, a couple hundred. It's not a very big account, it's a brand new account. But that one had gotten a bunch of hits and comments, and then the response to it had gotten almost nothing. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And some of that was in direct response to the first video. So I'm trying to figure out the algorithm. I think the algorithms are being messed with at the moment. I'm pretty sure that I'm probably, you know, same thing on YouTube. If you see this here and you want to share it, please go ahead and share it. We also have a Facebook group that's run by a friend of mine. I've been sort of hands off for a few years, so I'm just now kind of getting back into this, and I do cross post these videos over there too. But this was, you know, a thing that I started back in like 2010, and I'm unfortunately now 10 years later, here we are again, because apparently we have to be. So anyway, I hope you know, blessed be those of my friends that are pagan. God bless those that of you that are my Christian friends. Atheists, I hope the rest of you just have a good day. To my astrological spiritualists, may the stars bless you. I think we're gonna need a lot of strength right now. I think it's going to be a lot of interesting stuff, but I think everyone needs to just kind of remain strong and pay attention to the raw stories. Try to find the raw stories. Do not just read the headlines. Scan the headlines, but then read the article. Because what is happening is the headlines will say one thing, and you dig down into that article, and you'll find out that the headline does not reflect the article. This has happened multiple times. The easiest one to point to is the whole Trump tax return thing from the New York Times, where the headline says 750 only paid that much, blah, blah, blah. He's a horrible person. Where will the money go? But if you actually read the article, you see he prepaid, and that's normal. It's normal to prepay. That means he has a good accountant. That's all that means. So again, do this with everything. Read the articles. Read between the lines on the articles, because sometimes the article will tell you an awful lot of information, but you got to actually read the article and look at it and then go, well, the article also says XYZ happened, but they're insinuating that didn't happen, but it says right here it did, so let me cross-reference this. And when you cross-reference it, you find out from a first-hand account something like WAPO claiming that the postal worker that was a whistleblower claims that he recanted. We now have video, Project Veritas, and again, here we go. We got Project Veritas, a first-person interview where they're let him speak himself, and himself. The person that has the affidavit that said there was shenanigans going on at the post office, in his own words, says, I did not recant. I've never recanted. And he told the WAPO, fix your story, because you're trying to throw shade on me, and that's not what happened. So we have all the mudslinging and muckraking going on, and we have people that are trying to discredit. So read the articles, research on your own. The mainstream media is lying to you, mostly because it's the same 3 people that seem to own all the companies. Do your own research. That is what's most important. Come to your own conclusions. Ask the questions. That's what I'm trying to do. Everyone have a good day.